Okay.
All right,
Okay.
in 3, 2, 1, clap test. Or sync. Did you clap?
I did. Well, okay, so on one, we'll clap. Okay, like, we'll do 3, 2, and then as I say one, we'll clap.
Okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay. I didn't hear your clap, but I'm assuming it was there.
Okay, yeah, it was there. I hope that works. Oh, boy.
All right.
Anyway.
Welcome to episode 2 of the podcast.
Let's
go.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe episode.
Yes, the incoherent thoughts about the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh yeah, everything's going to be incoherent about this because it's kind of an incoherent movie series.
Before we start talking about Marvel, though, there's a thing I wanted to mention about our last episode.
Go ahead.
You and I got the names wrong of some of the kids.
Did we? I felt like we might have.
Yeah, because I think we were calling the youngest son Took, but I think that was the youngest.
No, that's the youngest daughter.
Yeah, that was the youngest daughter's name, but I think in our episode we were calling the youngest son Took. I think. I might be wrong because I think the other one was Loak, and then I don't remember what the other one was, but I looked it up and I was like, oh shoot, I think we might have been using the wrong names. I don't know. We might have been okay, but in my memory, I remember referring to the youngest son. Real sorry about that one. Yeah, Took. That was our mistake. James Cameron didn't pay us to get the names right. He just paid us to make a review, so...
Right, and and sometimes in life we're gonna make mistakes, and sometimes I think that was just a lapse in judgment, and I can say that it won't happen again, probably because we won't be talking about Avatar 2 anytime soon, but also just because we'll make sure not to make that same mistake ever again, and we're really sorry. So.
Yeah, we'll be making a YouTube apology video with the whole start the camera, sit down, take a deep breath in.
Yeah. Did you already do the Twitter apology?
I have not yet.
Okay, we'll need to talk to the PR team about that one, okay?
You got it, yeah, for sure.
Anyway, one thing I also noticed is I said the word like a lot, so I'm going to try and dial that back.
I see, there's all kinds of stuff we could pick out. Like, you said I felt like I interrupted you so much.
You think so? I didn't feel that way.
Watching back, I felt a little bad because there was several moments where you were saying something and then I started talking. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't realize you were speaking already or something. I didn't
even pick up on that, honestly.
I don't know. I felt bad about it, so my bad.
No, you're good. I'm sorry for saying so much.
I'm sure it didn't bother nobody.
If it did, another lapse in judgment, and that'll be another apology on Twitter.
Yeah, we'll make a separate one. We'll milk the apology videos a little bit.
Yeah, you'll get your money's worth. Anyway, MCU. What do you think about it? Yay or nay on the MCU?
So, in good reviewer fashion, I think we should start with the good things. I think.
Of course.
I used to be, and I really stress the used to be, a very big fan of the MCU.
Well,
I was huge on the MCU. It was one of those things where if a Marvel movie was coming out, I knew it was going to be good. I didn't have to be like, oh, I hope this movie's good. I just knew it was going to be good,
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just because I just grew up with just banger after banger from Marvel. But yeah, that was how I used to be. I used to look forward to pretty much every single MCU release.
Yeah, I mean, same. But, I don't know what it is because... Well, I do know. I mean, obviously, growing up watching the Marvel movies, it was already... I remember going to see the first Avengers pretty clearly. And that was probably the first, MCU movie that I saw in theaters. Oh, no, I saw the original Hulk in theaters.
Was mine. That was mine as well, was the Hulk.
I remember that. I think we left early and I was crying. So it wasn't that great. It
was because you enjoyed it so much. That's why.
I just remember being pissed, dude, because I had to leave Hulk and who wants to leave during the Hulk movie?
For real.
But I guess growing up with the movies, it was the new Marvel movie, you always go see it. And it was, it was a big cultural thing.
Right. Well, I remember back on the whole, it was just for sure going to be a good movie thing. You could really tell that they were putting some effort behind their movies, there was, they would keep track of, character development stuff really well. with the, I don't know if you've, heard the joke, like, oh, Tony Stark learns from his mistakes kind of thing,
Yeah.
But, like, what happened in the first Iron Man movie or something like that, he would design a suit in the second Avengers film or something like that has a tie back to that, So it was just, like, interesting that they would, like, keep track of that kind of stuff and stuff that they had set up in phase 1, that gets completed in phase whatever they're on, So it was just really cool to see them really put that kind of tender love and care into a project, and it not just be this like, oh, each movie is, just kind of slapped together. It's just its own standalone thing. It doesn't matter in the whole big scheme of things, which, I mean, definitely I think was how it started. They didn't think, I don't think they made their movies initially thinking it was going to be this big interconnected thing. I think they started with The Incredible Hulk. I don't think its success was all that fantastic. And then I think they went on to Iron Man. Or maybe, did they release Iron Man first? Because Iron Man has a cameo.
Was the very first one.
Maybe. Because doesn't Tony Stark have a cameo in the end credit scene of Incredible Hulk?
Yeah, he might.
And I remember seeing that. And I remember seeing the end credit scene and being like, oh my god, that's Iron Man.
Oh. Actually, Iron Man was the first movie.
So I think I saw The Incredible Hulk in theaters first, but I'd seen Iron Man on DVD first.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah, because I clearly remember watching the Hulk movie and seeing Iron Man and being like, no way, they brought Iron Man into this. What the heck?
Yeah, it is.
But I think that was their like when they made Iron Man, I don't think they assumed it was going to be this big thing. I think they thought it was going to be like mostly standalone movies. Maybe they were going to make this standalone film and that was where it was going to be. But then it just took off in its success, Yeah. I think it's probably where they went with it.
Yeah, I think it probably didn't. I don't know, because now they break it up into like phases. Yeah. I don't know if it was already decided there would be a phase 1 when it came out initially, or if that was something just as it went. I mean, they had to have had some sort of plan, I think. Yeah, but maybe after the first Avengers was when they were like, okay, they were going to be able to expand on this.
Right, because I definitely don't think they like meant to be done after the first Avengers, So if like all of their first initial standalone films were all working their way up towards the Avengers, I feel like they had to know that they were going somewhere beyond that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not for certain. Obviously, I wasn't there when they filmed it or anything, so I could be very wrong.
I don't know. I'd have to do my research on that. I think let's see. Yeah, so they're in phase 4 technically right now. Okay. Which I don't know when exactly that ends.
I think it's supposed to. I've not looked this up. I haven't done any research. I'm going purely based on what I am assuming they're going to do. I think phase 4 might end, or like the end stages of it might start with the new Ant-Man movie that they're releasing. Because I think so. I'm pretty sure because the whole movie is supposed to be about Kang the Conqueror, which during the Loki show was like they were introducing him as like the next big MCU villain.
Oh, okay. Because I have not seen the Loki show yet.
Okay, I would actually very much recommend that one. That is a very good show. I have nothing but good things to say about that one.
I've seen WandaVision, and I think that's the only one of the shows that I've seen.
Okay. Before we talk about the shows, we'll finish talking about we'll work our way up to the shows because the shows definitely have to do with like our review. I think that's and that's the shows are definitely they're like more recent stuff. So when we start talking about recent stuff, we'll talk about the shows. I think unless you wanted to talk about them. No,
I'm all good. Yeah, I think it ends with Guardians 3.
Oh, the phase 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that would make sense. Sure. That would make sense, I think.
But that's what it looks like.
Okay.
It might.
I remember, so back on the liking Marvel films, I remember loving Iron Man. I remember liking Hulk, not like to the extent where I was like, oh man, I cannot wait for another Hulk movie. But I was like, yeah, that was a pretty decent movie. I remember I watched Captain America, and when I watched it the first time, I didn't like it. But I was significantly younger, and that was definitely not set up as a superhero movie. That was more set up as a World War II movie. I mean, it had
Yeah,
like
in a way,
superhero aspects and science fiction and stuff, but it definitely wasn't set up like your typical superhero movie.
It wasn't
So I
Iron Man
remember,
or Hulk.
yeah,
Very
I
different.
remember initially not caring for it as much as I liked the other ones. And
Uh-huh.
then there was Thor. I remember not liking, or I don't know. I remember liking Thor, but when I've gone back and rewatched it, I was like, yeah, that's not fantastic. And then I remember when they released, the next Iron Man movies, I loved them. I think they did Iron Man very well. The next Captain America movie I thought was good. I didn't think it was great. It was like Incredible Hulk to me. It was a movie that I could stomach, but I wasn't like,
Are you talking about Captain America Winter Soldier?
yes, that's the one.
Okay. Here, how about I'll send you this picture.
Okay. Is this the like timeline?
Yeah, so we can
Okay.
go through it by phases.
Okay, yeah. So starting from phase one, how did you care for the movies?
So I would say, actually, you know what? In phase one, I only saw Iron Man and Hulk initially.
Okay.
Iron Man and Hulk and Avengers. Those were when I first once phase two started. Those were the only movies I'd seen from phase one.
Okay.
So I think because I didn't see. Oh, I'd seen Iron Man 2, but I hadn't seen Thor or Captain America. And actually, to this day, I still haven't seen Thor, the original one.
You've never seen the original Thor?
No, I have never seen it. I don't know
Honestly,
what it is.
you're not missing much. Honestly.
Yeah, I remember seeing the trailer, and it just never like I don't know. My parents never took me to see it. It was never like,
Right.
oh, the Thor movie's coming out. Not until
Right.
later, actually. Like later on, we'd be hyped for Thor, but the first one, like no one was like, okay. And then Captain America, almost the same thing. Like I didn't really know much about Captain America. I know people love him, but at the time, like I didn't even know that movie was out. I don't remember when that came out at all. But eventually, I did go back and see him. So based on what I'd seen, like Iron Man, probably my favorite, and then
Right.
followed by like Avengers and the rest of them are kind of in no like particular order. I'd say
Gotcha.
I liked the original Captain America though. I would say that.
I would say
So yeah,
after
phase one is nice. It's good. It's nice. It's short.
it's a good
and,
mix. It's a good dip your toes in the water. I think.
yeah.
I think having grown up and gone back and watched the Captain America movie, I definitely like it a lot more now. But I
Yeah.
didn't care for it when I was younger. I remember, yeah. So Iron Man 2, I think fantastic movies. Hulk, decent movie. Thor, not fantastic. Captain America, pretty good. The Avengers, I thought that was fantastic. I thought because we had never seen something like that before. Like they've had like DC had several Batman movies, several Superman movies, but there was never we're bringing these movies together. They were very
Right.
separate from each other.
Yeah.
And so for them to have brought this in, that was the first time that had ever happened.
Yeah, that's interesting because I'd only seen Iron Man and Hulk at that point. So when Avengers came out, it wasn't really like this big. I mean, it was still a big deal,
Right.
but it wasn't as monumental as something like Infinity War ended up being.
Yeah,
because-
it definitely because people didn't know what to
crossovers,
expect
yeah.
from it. Where in Infinity War, people knew it was what was changing Marvel forever. It was already
yeah,
this big established thing, and Infinity War was their groundbreaking thing at that point.
yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, Phase One, good. It's a nice origin story. Basically, it's very different from the way it is today. But yeah, I think I think Phase One, it's not their best. They definitely improve, and but it's not the worst. It's a great
Yeah,
starting
I
point.
think
It's a great
for
origin
its
story.
I
like
think
Phase
for its time it was really good. I think it definitely doesn't hold up as well as most people probably would have liked, but it definitely holds up, and it was at the time very good.
One. Yeah. So moving on to Phase Two, which starts with Iron Man 2 and ends with the first Ant-Man. Well, how do you feel about these movies?
Okay, so going in order of what they have listed on here on this Reddit post, Iron Man 3 I thought was very good. I actually really enjoyed that one.
I
I've seen Thor: The Dark World, but I've never watched it all the way through. Every time I try to watch this movie, I get so bored. So I've seen the beginning, I've seen some parts throughout it, and then I've seen the end. I could not make myself sit through this movie. I do not
Yeah.
like Thor: The Dark World. Like, I've sat down and tried to watch it, and I've seen parts of it, most of it. I think there's probably only bits of it that I haven't seen. Yeah. But I was so bored watching this movie. I was like, it was one of those movies, maybe if I went and watched it now, I'd be good, but, like, when I was a bit younger and tried to watch this movie, I was like, yeah, this is not doing it for me.
Yeah, I never saw that one at all. I remember when it came out, and I just had zero interest in seeing it because I hadn't seen the first one. Right. And Thor as a character at that point wasn't really... Like, I thought he was cool, but I didn't think it was that cool. I thought Iron Man was better. So I didn't really care that he had another movie coming out. Right. But Winter Soldier, did you see that one?
I did see Winter Soldier. I didn't see that one in theaters. I only saw that one on DVD. I thought it was good. I didn't have any complaints about Winter Soldier. It definitely wasn't Iron Man, but it wasn't as bad as Thor, I thought.
Yeah, I never saw Winter Soldier when it came out. It was almost like the same thing because of the first one. I hadn't seen that one either, so it was like, again, I don't care. And then once I did go back and watch the first Captain America, then I went and watched Winter Soldier, and actually I really enjoyed it. I think both of those movies are really great. They're obviously very different from the rest of the movies. And I'm not the biggest fan of Captain America, but the story in those ones are really good. And I like how they bring back like Bucky, and it becomes
that is kind of an interesting thing to think about, though. That both of the Captain America movies are very different from like Thor, Iron Man, stuff like that. You know, like I don't know, they're a little bit more like I want to say down to earth almost.
Yeah,
because like in Iron Man, you know, you got these people with this like weird, you know, able to heat their bodies up, superpower. This is a man who has all these robotic suits and flies around in them. And then in Thor, you know, you literally have Norwegian gods, you know? Yeah. And then, you know, and then Captain America, it's a really strong guy running from the government.
Yeah. Okay, my favorite. Or second favorite.
Guardians of the Galaxy?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay, so let me take a guess. Is the second one your favorite?
No.
Okay, I was going to say, if the second one is your favorite, you're in the same boat as my dad. My dad is such a Guardians of the Galaxy fan, but he likes the second one much more than the first.
That's interesting. I love the first one. I saw it like 3 or 4 times in theaters. It's just so great because it's standalone from all the other ones. Yeah. Like, honestly, you could take Guardians of the Galaxy 2014, pluck it out of the entire MCU, and it's still just a great movie on its own.
Yeah, like, remove the Marvel name from it, and it's still a fantastic movie.
Yeah, that movie, like, just the music, the writing in that one, like, everything was just... It was such a change of pace from the other ones, and I just loved, like, the chemistry with all the actors. That one is, like... You know, that's one of my favorite movies ever.
I would be willing to say that the Guardians of the Galaxy, the success from that one, and just, you know, the movie itself was probably where Marvel really started finding their footing. Because if you notice, you know, the Guardians, you know, all these movies have this certain, like, way about them. And then the Guardians of the Galaxy movie is so different and apart from all these other ones, you know. And then you look at the newer stuff of Marvel, and they're more like that Guardians of the Galaxy style movie. You know, they don't take themselves as seriously. They're a little bit more fun, you know? So I think it's like, I think Guardians of the Galaxy was where Marvel was like, yeah, this is what we need to start moving towards. So this is good.
That's what I think too, because it was, I think that's when they started to build the Marvel formula that we know today, was with the original Guardians of the Galaxy. And it's interesting too, because every movie before that focuses on the main Avengers, so having this, like, this one was very much like kind of an anomaly when it first came out. Yeah, it was
totally out of the dark,
And but yeah, I mean, this was the funniest one, and it that definitely started the whole Marvel trend and that sort of formula that they've used so many times since then. And to their credit, it's worked for a lot of movies, but I think as time has gone on, it's starting to see a drop off.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll get into that more once we work our way down the phases, the Marvel phases.
Oh, yeah, for sure, because there's definitely lots we can talk about when it comes to, you know, that drop-off in quality, I would say. Or not even just quality, but just drop-off in general.
And so, yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, that is one of my personal favorites. I think it's in my top 2.
I would agree.
Number 1... Well, Guardians might be... Look, I'm between Guardians 1 and Spider-Man 3. or
Ooh,
what's it called?
That is a good
No Way
one.
Home.
We'll get to that though, because you know, we have some stuff we could talk about for that one too.
Yeah.
For sure. We'll get to that. Yeah, so right now, Guardians of the Galaxy, definitely one of the top Marvel movies in both of our books, I would say.
Yeah. Age of Ultron.
So I don't think this movie was super well received. I think most people didn't care for Age of Ultron. I personally actually really liked Age of Ultron.
Yeah, I honestly I remember being really excited for it when it came out.
Right.
But I really don't remember that much from it. It wasn't the most, like, for me it wasn't the most exciting Marvel movie. Like, it was just cool because the gang was back together. And I thought Ultron was a cool bad guy, but overall it wasn't the most exciting one because I didn't really know what the hell was going on, if I'm being honest.
That is true. That is very true. I think the reason it was so hyped up for me and why I still remember it very fondly is because, this was like, oh my god, we're getting another Avengers movie. That's fantastic. I love the Avengers, you know? And then, Ultron was super cool. I think Ultron still is probably one of the coolest villains that the MCU has in any of their movies. I think he was very cool.
He has one of my favorite villain lines ever, which is like, "There are no strings on me."
Yeah.
I hope that's the line. I swear, if I just said if I just gave it praise.
I'm pretty sure. I know that's the song that they had playing because, you know, this whole thing was that he was this AI created to protect the world, and then he's like taking his own evil look on what his job is, basically.
Yeah. But he was a really cool villain. That line is really awesome. I love that line. But those are my major takeaways from that movie, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I remember watching this movie. I liked Wanda, but Pietro, her brother, Quicksilver. I remember watching this and being like, why would they do that? Why did they I know that it's because Fox wanted to retain the rights to Quicksilver, so they had to
really?
we can't. Yeah, so they were going to put Quicksilver into the MCU, but then Fox was like, actually, we own Quicksilver. And so then they were we gotta kill Quicksilver off, I guess.
Oh boy, yeah, that sucks because, now it's a whole meme. It's like how this Speedy guy die from a bullet?
Yeah,
and Quicksilver and X-Men. Like, you remember that? Have you seen that scene where he's running really fast and everything's in slow mo and he's
that's one of the
bullets.
That's one of the when you look at or not even look when you think of fantastic film stuff, that is one of the things that pops up. That is such a well put together scene.
Oh yeah, that movie. It's fantastic. That is a great scene.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how does this guy die from a bullet? It doesn't make any sense. But that's disappointing. But I think I would have liked to have seen Evan Peters. I would have liked to have seen that version of Quicksilver in the MCU. I think that actually would work a lot better in today's MCU.
I would agree because I feel like Evan Peters is more of a fun actor. I don't know if I'd say fun actor, but I feel like he could fit the fun
depending on
actor.
who he's playing.
Yeah, I mean, not
man. He
Jeffrey
plays a
Dahmer.
fun Dahmer.
yeah. I mean, that show.
This guy's Dahmer is hilarious.
Yeah, But I mean, you've seen his Quicksilver in the X-Men movies, and I think he fits the Quicksilver character a little bit better. I don't remember who originally played Quicksilver. Let me find out. Who played Quicksilver
and the guy from Age of Ultron?
Yes, it was Aaron Taylor Johnson. I don't think he did a bad job. I just think Evan Peters did a better job.
Yeah,
no
I think it was just written better for Evan Peters, if I'm being honest.
That's true.
Which I like that.
It could have been
too.
just the way he was written. That's true.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, I mean, that's not a bad movie.
Yeah,
I
think
one of my favorites.
I think it has its downs, but I think most of it is a good movie.
Yeah.
All right. Ant-Man now. What do you think of Ant-Man?
So I remember when Ant-Man came out. Honestly, I was just excited for another. A new hero, because after Guardians of the Galaxy, it was like, I want to see everybody else here. So I really enjoyed the first Ant-Man. I think I only saw it once or twice, and it didn't blow me away, but it was good. It carried on the humor that we saw from Guardians of the Galaxy, right? And I think that's when you really start to see them apply the that formula we know now, where there's like, you know, a lot of humor written into it, and the story itself is kind of inconsequential,
Right.
to the overall like story of the universe as a whole, and it was just fun. Like that one, it's not a bad movie.
Yeah.
This is
No, I agree. I think Ant-Man is another one of those ones that most people don't really care for all that much.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally really liked Ant-Man when I first saw it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd say really liked Ant-Man. I liked Ant-Man well enough, you know? And I thought it was a cool change of pace. It was kind of back on that, like, you know, the Captain America movies are, like, very different from the other ones. I mean, not in that it was different, but, like, in these other movies, you know, you have this crazy stuff going on. And it's like, yeah, you know, they're about to blow the world up or something like that, you know? And then Ant-Man is so much smaller, you know, not to, like, make a joke about, you know, him being Ant-Man, you know, but, like the, you know, it didn't feel as, like, big, and it felt much, you know, more separated from the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it was a nice change of pace, I felt. You know, it kept things fresh. You know, we're not just seeing this same format over and over and over again, you know?
Right, yeah. It wasn't great, didn't blow me away, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, I would agree.
Interesting way for it to end. I thought Phase 2 would end with Civil War, but I guess it starts.
I would have thought, you know, actually, I would have thought the same thing, because I would have thought that Civil War would have been their end thing, and then everything else after that would have been Phase 3, but apparently here it says Phase 3 started with Civil War.
Interesting. Well, what do you think about Civil War?
Well, I think Phase 3 as a whole is probably Marvel's best.
Oh,
like,
yeah. No,
phase
absolutely.
Out of all the phases.
Looking
I think
at
this is their strongest thing.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt. I was going to say that, too, because with a lot of shows, they'll hit their stride in their third season. So if you look at this as the third season of Marvel, this is definitely when they hit their stride. This is when, like, there's not really I wouldn't say there's a bad movie in this bunch.
Right.
There are some that are better than others, but there's not really a bad movie here.
Well,
what?
No, we'll get to it. There is a movie in Phase 3 that I don't care for looking on this list. We'll get to it though.
But I think this is the first one where I actually saw all of these movies.
This is by Phase 3. This is when I was like peak Marvel fan. I'm like, oh, Marvel is fantastic. I love everything.
Like
Marvel
I went to the theater
out.
for all of these.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
Ever
since this was when really things started to go. Things were popping off. Everybody's going to see every Marvel movie coming out. There's one coming out every year. Yeah. Or there's multiple coming out every year at this point. And yeah, like this was definitely peak Marvel right here.
Right. Oh, I didn't notice that they have No Way Home in Phase 3. Interesting. Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's in Phase 4. This is... Okay, yeah, so this is the first Spider-Man movie, Homecoming.
Oh, No Way Home. I always get them mixed up.
I was like... For some reason, I thought we already went over the first movie, and so I was like, okay, I see 2 Spider-Man movies here. And then I looked down, and I was like, oh, wait, no, never mind. There's No Way Home.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so, back on the original question, I thought Civil War was fantastic. When I saw I remember this was probably not the most hype, because Infinity War was definitely the most hype Marvel movie for me, but I remember Civil War was the first time I had gotten like really hype over a Marvel movie. Like all the other ones, I'd seen them on TV, like commercials for them. I'm like, oh, I want to go see that. But with this one, I was like, oh, I can't wait for Civil War. And I think
because this one was it was another Avengers movie.
It was, we were getting another Avengers movie, but it just didn't have the Avengers name on it.
Yeah.
Which I think, honestly, the reason this movie was so hyped for me was because Spider-Man. Spider-Man is my downright favorite superhero. And
really?
I remember before they actually announced that Spider-Man was going to be in it, there was people like, oh, Spider-Man might be in this movie. And so I was getting so excited because I was like, oh, Spider-Man might be in this. And then they released...
Dude, you're a Spider-Man boy?
I love Spider-Man.
Spider-Man's my favorite
so
too.
Much. Yeah, Spider-Man is so hype.
Dude, I mean, that was the reason I was hyped for this movie was Spider-Man.
Yeah. When they released that one commercial, I vividly remember I was at my grandma's house, and I was sitting in a chair. I don't know why the chair is specific. It's just a detail I remember in my head. I remember I was scrolling around on YouTube, and I see the Civil War like trailer or whatever like that, like the newest trailer that they had released, and the cover image was Spider-Man, and I was like, oh no way, they're gonna like talk about how they might have Spider-Man in this, and then I click on it, and it's the scene where Iron Man goes Underoos, and then Spider-Man jumps over him and grabs the shield from Captain America, you know?
Yeah.
I remember seeing that. I freaked out. I was like, Spider-Man's in this movie. No way.
Yeah.
I was so happy.
He jumps down. He's like, "Hey guys."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
yeah. When he's
oh
like,
my god.
There, yeah. He's like, got the. His suit looks great. His suit looked fantastic.
That was the coolest thing. I remember seeing like the eyes. That's what everybody was talking about for a while.
I remember that being a big thing where everyone was talking about how the eyes would shrink and move, and they were like, "Yeah, look, we have a Spider-Man that because Spider-Man's big thing is his facial expressions, like kind of like Deadpool. Deadpool's big thing is his facial expressions, and so it was cool to see that he could express stuff with his face now.
Yeah, it was that was a big deal, and that was my main reason for going to see Civil War. I obviously like nothing crazy is gonna happen with like no one's gonna die or anything,
right?
But
I mean, but you knew it was gonna be groundbreaking. This was Iron Man versus Captain America. These are two
you knew
people.
it was gonna go down.
Yeah, these are two people. This was the Infinity War before Infinity War. Because you got to think this is two teammates. If they're versus each, the whole movie's them versus each other. Something big is happening. And it was that same feeling with Infinity War. You knew something big was going to happen,
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was a good movie.
I enjoyed it.
I still think it's pretty long. I think I've only seen it once or twice. That's honestly kind of a pattern with a lot of these movies. I've only seen them probably once.
Yeah, there's only a handful of these.
I really liked it.
Yeah, there's only a handful of these that I've seen several times.
Yeah.
Moving on to Doctor Strange then?
Yeah, Doctor Strange was dope.
I really like Doctor Strange. I personally am a really big fan of like magic stuff in like movies and books and stuff. So when they were like, "Oh, we're releasing a movie about someone who does magic," I was really excited.
Oh yeah,
I was very excited.
I honestly, I didn't know what to expect with Doctor Strange because I didn't know anything about him as a superhero. And I don't really remember the lead up to the movie. I just remember it was out, and we went to go see it, and I really, really enjoyed it. Doctor Strange 1 is a very good movie.
Right. I remember it back on what was the Ultron line where he said there's no strings on me. Doctor Strange's was Dormammu, I've come to bargain or something like that. That was so cool. I was like, yo, Doctor Strange is so cool.
Yeah. That was man, I remember going to see that in theaters. That was it was like Christmas time, I'm pretty sure. And that was just really
it was November
fun
4th, so you're kind of close to Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a fun movie. Mm-hmm. That one, it carried over a lot of the same things from like Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man, where there's a lot more humor in those ones.
Yeah, you did notice, which is another thing I noticed in all of these movies. In Doctor Strange's own movie, he's very like goofy jokes, like in the first Doctor Strange movie, he was, he would crack jokes and one-liners like the whole time. And then you get him in, like, Infinity War or something, or in Spider-Man No Way Home, and he's, like, super serious, he's, like, the adult of the situation, which is, like, it's kind of weird, because he's, like, so out of character in other movies.
Yeah, they definitely put his character through the ringer in terms of, like...
Yeah, I feel like he's probably one of the least developed characters. Not that he's, like, a bad character, I just think he's probably one of the ones that they've spent the least amount of time fleshing out, like all the other characters in the MCU have very clear like development stuff that they're going through and stuff like that, and I feel like even though they just released a Doctor Strange movie again, I still feel like his character itself is not very fleshed out.
Yeah, I would have to agree. It's interesting too looking at it because you could say that Ultron and then Civil War were like the last movies that really didn't have that signature Marvel formula, because when you look at there's Ant-Man, or it starts with Guardians, and then there's Ant-Man, which is 2 movies after that, and then there's Doctor Strange, which is 2 more movies after that, and then it just goes Guardians 2, Homecoming, Ragnarok, and all of these movies have that very distinct Marvel writing.
Right.
So it's interesting, like, Phase 3 is when that just starts going off.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, you can almost see it in their cover images. You know, like, look at the images in Phase 1 and 2. They're all very dark, grim, and then you get to Phase 3, and it is full of color.
Yeah.
You know, like, they definitely like, really, they really hit their formula here.
Yeah. So yeah, we both like Doctor Strange. I'd say that's one of the better movies so far. I like that one a lot.
I would agree with you. I think you know, I've said this like 3 times now. I think this is another one of those movies that was not super well received. I don't think most people cared for Doctor Strange.
Really?
At least from what
I remember really liking the first
I remember liking it a lot too, but I remember most people being like, Doctor Strange is not all that good. It was just a big, like, you know, visual effects thing for them, basically. Which, I mean, it was a huge visual effects movie for Marvel. You know, like, doing the whole, like, mirror dimension thing. But I remember people being like, oh, you know, that's all that movie was. It didn't have anything good out of it. I mean, maybe we remember it fondly because, you know, we were young and it was, you know, magic and stuff, you know, it was cool to us like that. But I don't know. I remember really enjoying it. Yeah. I remember having nothing but positive things to think about it at the time.
Yeah, definitely. Guardians 2.
Okay, this is probably one of my favorite movies. If I had to pick,
really,
like a Marvel, this is probably the Marvel movie I've seen the most as well. This one or Thor Ragnarok, I think, are the 2 movies I've seen the most out of all the Marvel movies.
Okay,
interesting. But I really like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Wow. Okay, because I've seen Guardians 2 once or twice. Again, like with a lot of the other movies, I didn't like it as much as Guardians 1.
Really?
But that's interesting that you say that. What to you makes it better?
I honestly don't know. I was trying to sit here and think. I think it's just like the jokes maybe hit a little bit better. It was, you know, it hit that more like comedy formula, and it didn't feel too overdone for me. Like, you know, you there's a very fine line between, you know, you're a serious movie with jokes, and this movie is just goofy, don't take it seriously kind of thing, you know? And I feel like they really, really had that going for them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's,
and I mean, like, not that the first one didn't. Not that the first one didn't. I think the first one was fantastic as well. The first one is definitely also one of my favorite, you know, Marvel movies. I personally just care for the second one more. I don't know why.
Yeah, I liked the second one. I thought it was very good. I guess for me, it was going to be a pretty big task to actually live up to the first one for me because I'd seen it so many times at that point, and it was already like crowned as my favorite.
Well, and I think that was probably a thing for most people. You know, I think most people, if they were to go look at, you know, Phase 1 and 2, I think almost everybody, you know, obviously there's a few, but I think almost everybody would say Guardians of the Galaxy was the best movie out of all of those things, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so they had big shoes to fill with this one.
Yeah. And I guess, for you, they exceeded that, which is cool.
No, I thought they did a very good job.
Yeah, a good movie overall. I like it. But, Guardians 1 still the king for me.
I mean, fair enough. I'm not gonna say like, oh, you know, that's not right. I agree.
Wrong.
I think Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is very good as well. I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Right.
Spider-Man Homecoming.
Okay. When this movie came out, immediately my favorite movie. I was like,
really?
Spider-Man is so cool.
You know, I want to say I probably had the same reaction because I mean, Spider-Man being my favorite. For me, my 2 favorite superheroes, it's Spider-Man and Batman. I know I'm original.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, it's Spider-Man and the Flash. So I'm still within that. Like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. But I mean, I got like the 2 flagships for both.
Right.
For both.
Right. The most liked character in DC and the most liked character for Marvel, basically.
Yeah. But what can I say? I love my Spideys and I love my Batman.
Yeah.
All right.
I remember when this movie came out, I was I don't know why I think it's because at this time the CW Flash was like in its peak, and so I remember when this movie came out, I was like, Spider-Man is my favorite Marvel superhero, but I think the Flash is still my favorite overall superhero. And then this movie came out, and I was like, no, Spider-Man is so cool. I love Spider-Man.
I've always gone back and forth, and then like whenever they have a new movie, I'll switch over. So when Batman came out, it was Batman. But right before that, it was Spider-Man because of No Way Home. So
Right.
I love them both equally. I just
Yeah,
have to
they're
admit
both
that now.
fantastic. Yeah, and I just think they did everything so good in this movie. This is the first Spider-Man that seemed like a high schooler,
Yeah.
which was awesome because that's a big key part of Spider-Man's character. That in all of the other renditions of Spider-Man, they just kind of. I mean, like I know Tobey Maguire's did a decent-ish job of it, and Andrew Garfield's had a different take on it, kind of. But I just feel like this one was the most Spider-Man that we've ever gotten.
Yeah, this one was very different from the two I don't know what you would call it, portrayals of Spider-Man. And I really liked it. I really liked Tom Holland as Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, I think
Peter Parker.
I think they definitely had a perfect cast there. Like how Robert Downey Jr. I could never imagine somebody else playing Iron Man except for him.
No, absolutely.
I think Tom Holland, not quite to the degree that Robert Downey Jr. is for Tony Stark, but definitely approaching that. He's the perfect cast for the role. He just was such I think he just did such a great job.
See, I don't know. It's like, for me, it's almost how I feel about Batman right now, where it's like, they're all different, but they're all kind of nice.
They're all perfect in their own way, kind of situation, right?
I love Andrew Garfield and I love Tobey Maguire. I mean, Tobey Maguire is my goat. I can
totally agree with you there. Like, there are definitely things. Like, I'm not saying that Tom Holland's Spider-Man is the best Spider-Man. I personally don't believe that there is a best Spider-Man, because I think if you go back and compare all of the Spider-Men, they all do a different aspect of Spider-Man so well in their own regard.
Yeah.
And so I just think that's I think Tom Holland was the perfect Peter Parker to me. And then I think
agree with that, actually.
I think Andrew Garfield was probably the best Spider-Man, just Spider-Man on his own. And then I think Tobey Maguire was the perfect amalgamation. Is that the word?
I think he had I think so. I think Tobey had I guess we can get into that more once we get to No Way Home, but for me I think Tobey's had the best story.
I agree.
The best Spider-Man story.
I agree. Well, because it was a Spider-Man story.
It was so good.
It feels like all of Tom Holland's Spider-Man stories are other stories that movies. Spider-Man is just kind of in,
Yeah. They're Marvel movies that Spider-Man is a part of.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about Homecoming is I really enjoyed Homecoming when it first came out. I still like it. I think it's a good movie. I mean, any Spider-Man thing is going to get me.
Right.
But looking back at it, it's interesting too, because there's a piece that I feel like is missing that didn't redeem itself until No Way Home, and that's why No Way Home became probably my favorite.
What was that piece to you? I'm curious.
So it was the way Spider-Man. He always has a Tom Holland Spider-Man. Always has this fail-safe in Tony Stark. Tony Stark is his mentor, which is really cool, a really cool thing. But there's no consequences for anything that he does. Well, and then he kind of just gets bailed out every time.
Right. Well, and then a big thing of Spider-Man's character, and not the comics, because there's different comics that portray different things, but a big just overall Spider-Man character trait is that he is like a self-made superhero. He is. He has to deal with, high school stuff, and then if he goes to college, he's got to deal with college stuff,
and
grades, schoolwork, working. Yeah, all these other superheroes, like Captain America is Captain America. Iron Man is Iron Man. Thor is Thor. But Spider-Man was Spider-Man and Peter Parker. The Peter Parker aspect of that was big, and Iron Man being there to just kind of oh, you need something? Here you go. It kind of took a big part of that out of
and I
Spider-Man.
Think it's a cool take on everything, and I don't I respect it, but I think it does take a little bit of an element out of it, because he has no consequences for anything.
Right. I think looking at
he made his suit, or Iron Man made his suit, and it's like there's a very different. He doesn't have to worry about rent. He doesn't have to worry about all these different things that the other Spider-Men have to worry about. And so it's a very different character. It felt like a very different character.
Which is, like you said, they definitely come back to that in the newest Spider-Man movie, which, we'll get to when we reach that point. I think looking at Spider-Man specifically, the whole Tony Stark being there thing is not fantastic. But I think in the grander scheme of things, if you're just looking at all the Marvel stuff, I think Tony Stark being there was a good decision, because, you get the, Endgame or not, Endgame stuff, where he's like, we did it, Mr. Stark, stuff like that, or like in Infinity War when, he's like, I don't want to go or whatever like that, Like, I just think those parts were very well, like, thought out, But
I think it pays off. Ones. Definitely pays off. I think now knowing where it ends up, looking back, it doesn't really bother me because now I see where it's going and I see, how it shapes up eventually. And I think, when you watch it without knowing how No Way Home ends, then those criticisms still definitely stand. But
like just looking
it's moving in a direction where it's fixing those things.
Right. Yeah. Just looking at Spider-Man movies. Completely take them out of the MCU. Just looking at these Spider-Man movies, I definitely think the Iron Man being there is a hindrance. But yeah, overall, I think it was a good choice.
Yeah. Good movie.
Yep.
Like it.
Yep. Spider-Man. A+. Very good. Very nice.
Thor Ragnarok. There we go. I finally saw my first Thor movie with Thor Ragnarok.
I was so happy with this one. This was one of those ones. Okay, so I was on the swim team when I was in junior high, and I got on the bus to go from the swim facility back to the school afterwards, and I looked on my phone and I saw this trailer, and I was like, no way, this looks so good. The other Thor movies are garbage, and this one looks so good. What the heck? I was so excited.
Yeah, it was. This was a big moment too because it was finally now this Marvel formula that started with Guardians of the Galaxy finally made its way to an original character, and it worked. Like
it was
everybody.
So
everybody loves this movie. Like this movie works, and finally Thor was relevant.
He wasn't just this. Actually, I would say Thor and Hulk both got the redemption. In this movie, because Hulk was kind of in a similar boat where it's like, it's just the Hulk. But then you see this, and you're like, Hulk is fantastic. He's not just this monster; he's a character in this.
And I think this is when they really they kind of ditch the whole, it changes from here on out. Once they realize that works for the original characters, it's not really the same. They don't go back to the grittier kind of movies from the past two phases. And it worked. I really like that movie. I think the villain is boring, but I don't really
I would
care
agree. The villain's not all that great, but everything else is so well that it's like whatever. It's you're throwing a stone in a pond. The ripples show up and then they go away, so it's whatever.
Right, and you kind of see that with a lot of the movies once they start to get more like this, is that the villain isn't that crazy interesting or anything, except for, Spider-Man Homecoming, I thought Vulture was a very good villain. But for some of them, the villain is kind of hit or miss. But the writing was fun, and it just looked great, and the actors really did really well with their roles.
Right.
So
I remember this being such a big thing for so long. The one scene where Hulk busts out of the gate and Hulk is like, yes, he's a friend from work. We know each other. We're friends from work, or he's a friend from work. I remember thinking that was so funny.
It's such a good. Oh man.
Yeah.
That made Thor honestly, one of my favorites.
If you're thinking about it, they really had Thor out of character in this movie.
Oh, well, yeah, that's what they reinvented his character.
Other versions of Thor in these other movies, he's very, serious. In Age of Ultron, he kind of jokes a little bit, but he's not, a jokey character. He, has some just, funny moments. But, in this movie, he is so funny,
They completely reinvented his character, and I think they realized Chris Hemsworth is a very comedic actor. And that made Thor one of my favorite characters after this movie. Before I didn't care about him at all.
Yeah, I think in most cases, rewriting the character this late on into what is, the greater scheme of things is not a good idea, but here it was the best idea that they could have possibly done. Yeah,
I think Thor Ragnarok is a great movie, and it shows what the Marvel formula can do at its best.
Yes, I would agree.
Now, Black Panther is actually Black Panther is very different from the other ones because it doesn't particularly have the Marvel formula that we've been talking about.
It definitely invented its own thing, like all the other Marvel movies definitely have this like very strict, I don't know if I'd say strict, but they have this thing that they follow along. Yeah, this one went very on its own in its own direction,
which I think works very well because how I was saying some of the villains are hit or miss. I really like the villain in this movie. I think
would
the
agree.
whole story of Black Panther 1 is very emotional and it works so well. I think that was one of the more powerful stories was from Black Panther.
I think Killmonger is probably another one of the like best villains that Marvel had ever created. I just wish they didn't kill him off in this movie. This was the one thing that the whole Marvel formula that I was not happy with is, Marvel makes a habit, even if it's a big, huge villain, they kill him off in one movie. You don't get to see this villain, reach their
That's a good point, because I've never thought about that. I always expect them to come in the movie and then leave at the end. Like, that is a good point.
Which, I'll talk about that in another Marvel movie that we'll be getting to as well. The whole, Marvel not letting their villains reach full potential.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because I think, his character, it would have been really cool to see what he would do in other movies.
Well, because he was like one of the first characters where you're like, I can really agree with this guy, almost.
Yeah,
like you sympathize with him.
Yeah, because you have someone like Loki. I mean, after Loki, who's the next villain that really kind of sticks around a lot?
Well, I mean, Thanos had, Thanos stuck around.
Well, obviously Thanos.
But he was their big bad, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, I guess Claw, the dude that they killed off in the beginning of the Black Panther movie, the one who had the claw. That
is it Andy Serkis who plays him?
I think so. Yeah, but he was also in Age of Ultron. I mean, he was kind of a returning villain, but he wasn't like the villain.
Yeah,
he was
he's
just
not a very big villain.
Yeah, he was just a kind of a guy that showed up in both of those movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I kind of wish that Marvel had, not done that, and maybe in the future they will, but from what it seems like, Marvel is very strict on their whole, you introduce the villain and you get them out in that same movie.
Yeah. And also I think with this movie this is the first time, or I guess the first like real noticeable time that the CGI started to take a pretty noticeable dip, particularly with the last fight.
I would agree. Most of this movie looks very good, but then you definitely have very pickable parts where it's like, oh, that didn't look fantastic. And maybe it's because, look on here, the next one that they have is Infinity War. So maybe it's, they're trying
that's true. They took everybody and put them on Infinity
War. Yeah, they're
War.
like, hey guys, we have, the biggest project yet coming. We're going to have to start cutting some stuff,
Yeah.
So maybe that's why.
That's interesting. Yeah, because it's like, that fight was like hyped up the whole movie, and it was it's a good fight, but it's just the CGI, it looks so like cartoony, and none of the choreography works. It's just, that was the first moment where it's like my brain with the CGI was just like, okay, this is just what it is.
Well. Yeah. I remember the most notable part I can think of was that one part where T'Challa goes to like pounce on Killmonger or whatever, and Killmonger like grabs him, spins him around, and throws him. It's when they're fighting on the like that train thing.
Yeah.
And so he goes to throw him, and instead of like falling off the train railroad, he like grabs that pole and like swings around. It just looked really weird.
Yeah,
I think the physics of it didn't match like
one
what
big
should have
thing
happened.
That I heard was that nothing has any weight to it, like none of the punches. And when you think of it like that, you really can notice it, because it's like nothing really feels, there's no weight to anything.
Which that is a thing I've noticed in a lot of just superhero movies as of recently, and I don't know if it's because I've been watching a lot more anime now than I used to, and in anime fights, some dude will get punched and they like destroy a mountain or something, as they're like flying away or whatever. But like, I remember when I would go watch superhero movies and every punch felt so impactful. And then I went and watched like Black Adam or something, and every time the characters went to go fight, I was just like, yeah, this is just going nowhere. This doesn't feel like a fight. It just, it didn't feel impactful to me.
Yeah. Definitely from even some of these past movies, some of the fight scenes are just kind of like, I don't really, I kind of tune out when they're fighting. just because it doesn't really feel like that much is going on.
Right, yeah, it's just kind of a filler
it's
scene.
Not super engaging.
Yeah.
But that is not what it's like in Avengers Infinity War, which...
Oh, fantastic. I remember taking part in the whole theorizing, like, oh, what's going to happen in this movie? Who are they going to kill off? Because everybody was like, oh, they're going to kill somebody off. And I remember thinking it was going to be Captain America because they were like, oh, Chris Evans's, what's it called? Contract is ending. And so I was like, oh, okay, they're 100% going to find a way to get Captain America out of here. I don't think they'll kill anybody else off, but I think, they might do something with him.
Yeah.
I remember that was the thought process.
Try half of everybody.
Yeah, I went into this movie, watched the part where Thanos snaps, and I'm like, okay, something's going to happen. The heroes are going to come in. Because we had never seen the heroes lose before.
No.
In all of their movie. Like, not a single Marvel movie had ever had the heroes lose. And in this one,
shocking.
They lost. I remember going home and being like, no way they did that. That is crazy.
What's interesting is, like, I thought that was the last Avengers movie. I didn't think there was going to be another one.
I knew they were going to do something else because, they left half the people alive for a reason. I knew they were doing something.
Well, yeah, no, I knew after it ended that there would be another one, but going into it, I thought this was it.
I did too. I thought they were like, yeah, this is where we are. This is, everything's led up to this point. I thought that was what they were going for,
Yeah, I thought this was absolutely it. So when that happened, I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then the credits roll, and it's just like, that's it. Usually the movies end with, like, it's a happy ending. Everybody's doing a little song and dance. And this one, it was just like, everybody's dead. Bye.
Yep. Right.
Oh, man. It was, that was an experience. And
this is definitely, I think everything was leading up to this. It was very obvious. And I think, I don't think they could have done it better, honestly. I think that was fantastic. I loved Infinity War.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great movie. Moving on to Ant-Man and the Wasp. Very,
This was just a mid movie for me. We had just got over Infinity War. I'm like, okay, what is the Ant-Man and the Wasp gonna have now? Because I want to know what's going on with Infinity War. And then, you get into this movie and it has, like, nothing to do with it until the very, very end.
Well, doesn't it start with him... Wait, doesn't it...
Are you thinking of when he gets out of the quantum area? That's the start of Endgame.
Oh.
Yeah, this one... So at the end credit scene of this one is when he gets stuck in the quantum realm, and then at the start of Endgame is when he gets out of it.
Okay, so this one literally has nothing to do with what happens after Infinity War.
The end credit scene is the only thing that has anything to do with Infinity War.
Oh, man, yeah, because... Yeah, remember now, this was... I think the movie as a whole is fine. I think this is when the Marvel formula starts to get a little bit old.
Yeah, it gets a little rocky from here on out, I think, for sure.
I think it's getting, I think at this point, you're watching this movie and you're like, well, this has nothing to do with what just happened.
Yeah.
The biggest thing in the entire series.
Yeah, it took me out of it. It super took me out of, what was going on with everything else. Not that it was, like, a terrible movie. I didn't think it was great. Like, the story itself was, okay. The villains and stuff like that were just kind of like... I don't even remember the villains. They're... this movie was just...
Ghost.
So there was Ghost and somebody else, though, because she wasn't a bad person.
Wasn't
remember?
There Lawrence Fishburne in that movie?
She was, like, a good person who was in a bad situation kind of deal.
Yeah, I think it was Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah. Trying to see if his name is on here. Yeah. His name is on there.
Okay. Yeah. I forgot a lot of what happened in that movie.
Yeah, I don't know. This movie just felt super lackluster. I mean, it was cool that, the Wasp was a character now. But, I mean, it just felt so lackluster. Like, it just didn't do much for me, And
I think that's when you start to really see a drop in quality with some of their, like, at this point, like, up until... Infinity War, it was like non-stop bangers. Like there was not a bad movie.
Like, except for Thor, like, you were pretty sure that they were going to be releasing a good movie.
Yeah. But yeah, now there starts to be a dip in quality around this point, and you see that in Captain Marvel, which, how do you feel about Captain Marvel?
I did not like Captain Marvel. I felt the story was just kind of meh. The characters were just kind of meh. The villain was just kind of meh. You know, I was like, come on, guys. Is this a Marvel movie or is this just a sci-fi movie that's poorly written? Like,
yeah, I never finished it. I was at the theater and then there was like some sort of, I don't know, there's some sort of emergency. I couldn't stay. And I never finished it. And I was like, I'm not going to go pay money, go back and see it at the theater.
Right.
And I never did. So,
I remember being confused.
I don't know. I've heard a lot about it.
I remember being confused because you go watch Thor. The whole point of the movie is you're like, yeah, I like Thor. Thor's cool. You go watch Ant-Man. You're like, Ant-Man is cool. You know, I like Ant-Man. You go watch Iron Man. I like Iron Man. You know, that was the whole point of the movies. You get to Captain Marvel, and it felt like they were trying to make you not like Captain Marvel. Like,
really?
I'm pretty sure it's a character trait of hers in the comics to just be, like, very smug. You know, she could do anything kind of thing, you know? And, like, people just are generally annoyed by her, you know?
Yeah.
But, I don't know, it just felt like they were, like, trying to make you hate her. And I just didn't get that.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'll have to go... Like, I've seen a lot of that movie. I know that there's some parts... Like, it really is very different from the other Marvel movies, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's more... I mean, I guess, you know, Thor was your other, you know, or Thor Ragnarok was your other very sci-fi movie. But this was, like, the first movie... Oh, no, I forget about Guardians of the Galaxy. So I guess... Never mind. Disregard what I was going to say. I was going to say this is the first time we've had, like, a sci-fi movie. But no, we've had sci-fi movies. I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think this one just worked. It worked a little differently, especially, like, with the aliens in there. The kind of aliens that they were, which is cool, but... yeah, this one was different. I still haven't finished it, so I don't have that much to say on it, but I know that it wasn't the most well received.
Right. Well, and then this movie introduced, you know, what I think they're trying to make a big part of the Marvel universe is the what are the green dudes called that shapeshift? I can't not remember what they're called.
Yeah, those are the guys I was talking about.
But they're like a big like, they're trying to make them a big part of the MCU now. You know, like, they're in other movies and stuff now, too.
Are they really?
Well, because they're in No Way Home. Because remember at the end of No Way Home, when who you think is Nick Fury actually ends up being one of those guys?
Oh, dude, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, they were trying to make them, like, a big deal. It just kind of felt out of place. You know, it's, like, so random, you know? It's just like, oh, so now you're going to tell me that, you know, anybody that we've seen so far could, you know, just be the shapeshifter, you know? Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I did not remember that at all.
Moving off from Captain Marvel, though. What about Endgame?
To a banger.
I loved Endgame. I liked Endgame a lot.
Endgame.
Which, you know, looking back on it and thinking about it, it definitely, compared to Infinity War, I think is definitely the worst of the two movies.
You think so? Because I feel like a lot of people have that sentiment where they think, well, Infinity War is a better movie, but...
See, not that I didn't like Endgame, but I think time travel, anytime you introduce time travel into something, if it's not executed absolutely perfectly, or in this case, if it feels very out of place, then it just doesn't work all that well.
Yeah.
And, like, I mean, I understand why they did it, and I guess in the grand scheme of things again, you know, we're looking back, it works, you know, but, like, looking at this movie, it just kind of felt so odd that out of nowhere they're like, we're going back in time now.
Yeah, and he's just like, I figured it out, and they're like, what? And he's like, time travel. I was like, okay. Well,
and then their whole, anything we do in one universe, or, like, when we go back in time, you know, if we change the timeline, it's not going to affect our universe, it's just going to create a new one. You know, I feel like that was how they were justifying the whole, like, oh, they can't just bring Iron Man back now that Iron Man killed himself. They can't just, you know, like, because, you know, anytime you introduce time travel, you have to be really careful because anything you do feels inconsequential. You make a mistake, go back and undo that mistake, you know?
Yeah.
And so time travel is a very dangerous thing to play with, and I think they did it well, but it could have been done better.
Yeah. I think overall it's a very satisfying conclusion to...
Oh, I agree. And I I almost feel like it should have ended here. Like, as much as I like Far From Home and stuff like that, I feel like it should have ended here. I feel like Marvel should have been like, okay, we're, hanging the cape, not to make a joke about superhero movies, but like, I think they should have called it there.
I think so too. I think, it's hard for me to say that not having No Way Home in there, but I think ultimately it should have ended with Endgame. That would be it.
Right.
And it would be just set. And this, honestly, I'll get into this later about how I think the MCU's downfall is going to be inevitable because they're not going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Endgame, a great movie.
I did really like Endgame. It was very good. Very good conclusion. I think everything that they stacked up just fell into place exactly like it should.
Yeah. Let's see. Far From Home. How do you feel about that one?
I like Far From Home a lot. I liked No Way Home a little, or not No Way Home. Obviously, I like No Way Home more. But I liked Homecoming a little bit more than this one. But I still liked this one a lot.
Yeah, I liked Homecoming more. I didn't think this one was bad. I think... I mean, this one, like, it was good. I think this is when, for me, they start to be like, yeah, it's good. It's a Marvel movie, but it doesn't, like, blow me away. Right. Like, after Endgame, it took a little bit to get that out of me. Actually, I didn't experience that anymore until No Way Home. But
yeah, that was, for me, that same sentiment where it's like, oh, a Marvel movie's coming out? I'm so excited for it. Even after they had released a couple of bad movies, I was still going to see these movies with the idea that, it's just going to be a great movie,
Yeah, but, a lot of times I would leave the theater being like, it's good, I like it, but, like, don't have any more to say about it. That was kind of how I felt with Far From Home. Right. Although, the ending on that one was, like, that sold it for me.
Oh, that was so good. Yeah, I think that was fantastic. I think that movie could have been as bad as it wanted to. With that ending, it was so good. That pulled it all, like, so good.
That was why I was so hyped for No Way Home. I mean, no, there's a bigger reason why I was so hyped.
Yeah,
but that was a pretty big reason. Yeah, Far From Home, not bad, but that's the end of Phase 3, I think.
And this is when my, being a fan of the MCU starts to fall apart.
And I gotta say, here, I mean, we can go in order, but
I think we should go in order.
It's very spotty where I've...
Or maybe we shouldn't go in order. Maybe we should... we can start with No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness, because we touched on Multiverse of Madness in the last episode. We've been talking about No Way Home this entire podcast. Do you want to start with those two, and then we'll go in order from there on?
Yeah, so I'll say, out of these movies, No Way Home... I think I've only seen a few of these. I haven't seen them all. I do want to see Shang-Chi. I haven't seen that one.
That one's decent.
Yeah, I don't know why I never saw that one. I feel like I was going to a few times, but I never did. I do want to see that, though, because I've heard it's good. But Spider-Man No Way Home, oh, man, this was my most hyped movie, more than Endgame.
Oh, yeah, it was the same for me. I was hyped for Endgame, and I didn't think I could be more hyped for, a Marvel movie. And then they, started talking about No Way Home, and I was so ecstatic.
Yeah, it checked every box for me. Mm-hmm. I bought tickets ahead of time, which you don't ever really need to do that.
Well, I heard that, like, people were going to buy tickets online, and it was, like, crashing, like, the ticket booth stuff, wasn't it? Like, wasn't there, like, issues with people trying to go buy tickets?
Dude. Yeah, I remember that because it was, I was there. Like, I was trying to get tickets as soon as they dropped, and it was, like, timing out, and it was all crazy.
Right.
But I did get them, and this movie was an emotional roller coaster.
Oh, yeah, it was everything I could have possibly hoped it could be, though. It was so good.
Everybody was clapping.
Yes.
It was just a spectacle. And growing up, having watched the Tobey Maguire movies mainly, and then following that up with Andrew Garfield and finally these, it was like a beautiful present, all wrapped up nicely. And I love the ending.
I remember specifically... I just realized we never said, like, spoiler alert or anything like that. Like, people are just watching, this or listening to this podcast, and We just ruined the whole MCU for them.
Yeah.
But
well, I think if you've listened this far, you got the idea.
Yeah, you get but I remember. So I am someone who like very rarely has to like move around to show my excitement during a movie. You know, like I don't like go like no way or something like that when I'm watching a movie.
No way, home.
Yeah.
Hello there. Hi. Yes, this is Aiden from the future editing this podcast. This joke I made here is horrendously bad, corny, and cheesy, and I am so very sorry for making it. Please clean your ears out after listening to this podcast, but please listen to the rest because I don't make that mistake ever again, and I will never make that mistake ever again. So please enjoy yourself, enjoy the rest of the podcast. Thank you.
But I remember when I was watching No Way Home and Ned starts doing the portal thing and you see Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man start running towards the portal. I was literally in my seat like, no way. I knew it was coming because I already knew they were going to be putting Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire into this movie. Like, of course they were going to, you know? I remember seeing Andrew Garfield running towards the portal and I was like, there's no way. There's no way. I was like getting so excited. And then I remember being where's Tobey Maguire? Why haven't they brought him in yet? And then they do the portal thing again, and there's Tobey Maguire. That was when the entire theater that I was at started clapping. Everyone was like,
dude,
yeah.
Oh, man. It was like, I remember, I have a big smile on my face just thinking about it because it was such a good moment. Like, I remember...
I'm getting excited thinking about it right now.
Yeah, dude, I want to go watch it right now. Andrew Garfield showing up, everyone's like, oh! And I remember that so clearly, and then after that it was like, where's Toby? And then he shows up, and it was just, there was like the interactions between the three Spider-Men were great. The writing with it was just perfect.
Cracking up when they're talking about like, oh, you know, I fought in space, or I fought an alien in space, and then Toby's like, or not Toby, Andrew Garfield's like, oh man, you know, I wish I did stuff like that. And they're like, no, you're amazing. You're so amazing. I was dying. I thought that was so funny.
Dude, it was so good. It was
I think they could not have done that one more perfectly. That was probably one of the most well put together, and it was one of the Marvel movies that was so hyped up, and it just lived up to every ounce of hype that it had, I think.
Yeah, I think it worked so well, which is cool too, because it's like you put those three characters together, and how do you make it work? I don't know.
Right.
But they did it, and I was really, really happy with it. And the ending fixed pretty much all of the issues that I had.
Yeah.
Putting this Peter Parker at square one and having him have to go through the traditional Spider-Man troubles.
Well, yeah, because I think most people, when they would talk about like who their favorite Spider-Man is, I think, 9 times out of 10 people are like, oh, I like Tom Holland a lot, but I just don't like that he's, Tony Stark Jr. basically.
Yeah.
And this movie completely did away with that. He is Spider-Man, as Spider-Man as he can get now,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's my favorite. That and Guardians are my favorite.
I think Spider-Man No Way Home probably takes the cake for me. I think that's probably my favorite.
Game, dude.
Yeah, I think for me, Spider-Man No Way Home is what that is my Marvel movie right there.
Yeah, and after this, oh God, here's where we get to Multiverse of Madness.
So I had actually seen Shang-Chi and Black Widow before I had seen Multiverse of Madness, but because we have already spoken about Multiverse of Madness a little bit in the last episode, I think we should go ahead and continue with this one, and then we'll start going back in order again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Multiverse of Madness, I watched it and was disappointed from start to finish. I feel like I was over it. Like, it didn't do anything. After watching Everything Everywhere All at Once, and seeing, like, that's how you make a multiverse movie.
Yes.
So having this movie, it felt so lackluster. It felt like it lacked imagination. The story was and the visuals, again, now we're seeing them drop off again. Like, it started to be plagued with this thing of the formula not being very limiting, and and there was just not a lot of passion into it. And then the whole thing with, like, bringing in these cameos of of characters like Professor X and Fantastic Four guy.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't care. I don't know. I was like,
they were trying to have their No Way Home moment, and it just did not go right.
Right, and the only thing is like the reason it worked with No Way Home is because it mattered to the story.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, it doesn't matter. Like, they die in 3 seconds. It doesn't matter. They're not even the villains. They don't help the hero in any way. It doesn't do anything.
They are purely there for fan service. That's it.
Exactly, and I know it might sound silly saying that after No Way Home, but No Way Home, the story was built around that, and so it works. But this one, it was just like, I don't even know. And like like there's like hypothetical characters in here. Like,
they could have cool. They could have totally had another No Way Home here on their hands. They brought back Sir Patrick Stewart for Professor X. They're bringing in the Fantastic Four. If they had gone into this movie like, okay, this is when we're introducing this, we're gonna build this movie around this. They could have done something crazy with it. They could have got everybody very hype for the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and stuff. But they just didn't.
They didn't, and it's unfortunate because it really, and I think Wanda being the villain was like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was a kind of a cool concept. I think I agree.
Did you watch WandaVision?
I did watch WandaVision. I liked WandaVision a lot, actually.
I like WandaVision a lot as well, and I think that this movie reversed her whole character arc from the
agree.
From the show.
And I had something to say about this because listening to another podcast, I had actually come to this conclusion along with the people on that podcast. Not like saying I was in the podcast, but I was listening to this podcast.
Are you plugging another podcast?
No. I won't give you the name unless you ask.
This is the only one.
Yeah, this is the only podcast in existence. But no, I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about how what they think happened was they started making this movie in the middle of when they were releasing WandaVision, or they didn't have any talk with each other at all, right? They released WandaVision thinking, oh, it's just gonna be this little side thing, no one's gonna really care about it. It was their first TV show that they were doing, so they didn't think it was gonna be this big deal. Probably, and they were kind of just making this movie on its own without even considering WandaVision. And then WandaVision took off and it was super successful. So then they were like, guys, we have to do something about WandaVision. And so oh, shoot, throw her kids in there, Yeah. It just felt so I don't know. Yeah, because she had this such big character development in WandaVision. And then they just oh, that didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it was... I couldn't tell you how disappointed I was with this one, and I think that after seeing this, I was like, okay, I think the Marvel formula, I think it's played out now,
right?
And I was, I was, the visuals too. I think it's definitely that thing where they have so many digital effects artists, and they spread them thin.
Yeah.
They spread them across 15 different projects at a time.
Right.
And then they don't even pay them well. And so it's just and then also, and like I was saying last time, that 90% of these movies are now CGI, just the background things. Yeah. It's all digital. And so when there's no mixture between practical effects and digital effects, it just doesn't, unless it's done really, really well, like Avatar, then it doesn't look good.
Yeah, it looks silly.
There were some moments that were laughably bad, like the ending with Doctor Strange and he's got the eye in the middle of his forehead.
Oh my god, I
can't believe it looks this bad.
I literally started laughing at that part because, and I mean, even removing the whole bad CGI part, that was such a bad scene. He's walking down the street, and then I don't know what her name is, but that lady shows up and she's like, the astral world needs your help, and he's like,
see, I don't even remember that, dude. That's how forgettable it all was.
I remember seeing that scene, and I was like, this is such a shit scene. And then he opens his eye, and I'm like, oh my god, what the heck?
Dude, oh man, I laughed too. I was like, I can't believe this is happening right now. This is really this is it.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. After that, the only movie I've seen has been Thor: Love and Thunder, which I know you did not like, and I will say this.
We'll get to that, though. We have other movies we need to cover before we get to there.
That's true. Okay.
If you haven't seen any of the ones, then I'll just kind of like work my way through the ones that I've seen, and then we'll talk about our other stuff that we had here. Because we don't want to just review the movies. We also have other things we were going to speak about. But when I went in to go see Doctor Strange, because I had already watched Black Widow and Shang-Chi, I liked Shang-Chi. I did not like Black Widow. And then, just going into Doctor Strange, I was like, okay, these Marvel movies, it's not as much of a surefire thing anymore. It was like Marvel movies are coming out. They're going to be good. I can look forward to those. But by the time I went to go watch this Doctor Strange movie, I was thinking, going into it like, oh, I really hope I like this movie. And I remember the whole time thinking, man, I really hope this gets good at some point because I really want to like this movie because I still want to be a Marvel fanboy. And it just never did it for me. It never got there.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned this last podcast episode as well. But why do they make Doctor Strange look so cool in all the movies that are not his own? Like in Infinity War, he is taking on Thanos with like 4 Infinity Stones all by himself. He is destroying that man. He is so cool. And then you get into this movie, and he's like, or even in Spider-Man, puts him into the mirror dimension. He does the train thing. That is so cool. And then you get into this movie, and I can't even think of a cool spell that he did. He didn't do anything cool. He blasted ice out of his hands and tried to freeze the thing. He created a saw out of light and saw whatever that one monster thing was.
Oh, yeah, saw blade, yeah.
Yeah, like, he didn't do anything cool. Like, where was the whole, like, oh, he's gonna make the buildings, like, multiply and just cave in on this? Like, there was none of that. Like, why? That is a Doctor Strange thing. Why didn't they do that?
Yeah. That movie, it broke my heart.
I remember going to see Black Widow. So you have not seen Black Widow?
No, I have not.
I remember I can't remember what the dude's, I think he was Captain Britain, the dude in all red. He was like, or no, he's the Russian guy. Shoot, yeah. What was his superhero name? Like Red Russian or Red something? I don't know.
Oh, I'm not
Crimson,
sure.
Whatever. I don't know. Not all that big of a deal. But anyways, so I remember seeing him, and I loved that guy. That guy was hilarious. He was so perfect. And then the rest of the movie was just so bad. That guy is the only good part of that movie, I think.
Yeah, I think a Black Widow movie should have came out before.
It should have been put. It should have been put some point after Civil War, before Infinity War.
Or Infinity War.
Some point after Civil War, sometime before Infinity War, because that's when the movie itself takes place. I don't know why Black Widow is dead, and then they start this movie off with like, oh yeah, this takes place like 10 years ago.
Yeah, that would have been so much better. I really wish they had done that.
And in comics, Taskmaster is such a cool character, and in this movie, Taskmaster is just not cool at all. Like, barely plays a role, barely does anything. Literally just shows up to be like, oh, Taskmaster's here.
Yeah.
That is literally the only role that Taskmaster plays.
Yeah.
And then Shang-Chi, I did something illegal. I pirated this movie.
Ooh. Hey, hold on. We're gonna have to speak to the lawyer about this.
Yeah, cut that part out.
No, he was kidding. This is a comedy podcast. Yeah,
that was satire.
It was a joke.
That was satire.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
I remember watching Shang-Chi and being like, oh, it's pretty good. It's not great. It's pretty good. I loved the part, though. I didn't end up finishing Shang-Chi, not because it was bad, but just because I, just kind of, stopped watching it to go eat, dinner and just never started watching it again or something like that. And I remember that this movie had a really funny part, though. It was the guy who plays the Mandarin in Iron Man 3?
Yeah.
He's there, right? And he's talking about how, because he's playing the Mandarin, and Shang-Chi, his dad is the actual Mandarin. And so he's, upset that dude was, playing him and played him as, a dumb, bumbling fool,
Yeah.
And so he's, got him as a prisoner, right? And so they, break that guy out of jail. And he's, talking or something like that, and he's talking about how, it's always been his dream to be an actor. He, has wanted to be an actor his whole life. And the reason he wanted to, be an actor is because he watched a movie called Planet of the Apes, and he could not figure out how on earth they taught those monkeys how to ride horses, but then he figured it out. They were just acting. They were acting like they were riding horses. I thought that was so funny. I was laughing so hard. I mean, like, it's a stupid joke. It's such a dumb joke, but I had, like, that was so funny. I don't know why that was so funny to me. Yeah. Like, the way he delivered it, too, is so perfect. He's like, they were just acting like they were riding horses.
That's funny. I want to go back and watch Shang-Chi.
I think out of all the Phase 4 stuff, I think Shang-Chi is still got the, like, stamp of approval, you know? It's not a bad movie. You know, it's not their best movie, but it's still a decent movie.
Yeah.
Did you see Eternals?
I did not.
I didn't see Eternals either. When I saw the commercials for this movie, I was like, I don't care. I don't know who those people are. I don't really care who they are. Whatever. And then people were saying it was pretty good, and so I'd always meant to go back and watch it, but I never had.
Yeah, I heard that it wasn't very good. Honestly, I couldn't.
Really?
I forgot if it was like a DC movie or Marvel movie. I really was not invested in it.
No, I remember hearing it was pretty good. I mean, I remember people picking parts out of it that they didn't like, but I remember overall people being like, "Oh yeah, it's pretty good."
Interesting, because I watched some videos about it, and I was like, this movie is bad, and here's why.
I gotcha.
I don't know.
Before we talk about Thor Love and Thunder, we should talk about some of these commercials, or not commercials, why did I call them commercials? TV shows.
Okay, yeah.
So down at the bottom, underneath the movies of Phase 4, they've got all the shows listed out on this post, starting with WandaVision. We've already discussed. Very good.
WandaVision.
I like WandaVision. I like WandaVision a lot.
Else.
It was. Yeah. I mean, it was. You'd never seen anything like it. You know, back on the whole Marvel had never done this before. Yeah. You know, it was another one of those. You know, we'd never seen that before. You know, it was a very cool concept. You know, it was very well put together. Yeah. I watched the first 2 or 3 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I got so bored I stopped watching it immediately.
Oh, really?
Well, I guess not immediately if I watched 3 episodes of it, but I was like, yeah, I don't really care for finishing this.
Yeah, I never saw it.
I watched Loki. Fantastic. I think Loki is the best out of all of their shows.
Yeah, I've heard it is, and I've been wanting to watch it, but I haven't.
I mean, it's kind of a big deal going forward with the...
That's what I've heard, is that something needs to depend on it.
Yeah, going forward, Marvel's Phase 5... I think you would need to watch Loki in order to understand what's going on. I think, because the main villain in the new Ant-Man movie is, you get introduced to him in the Loki show. So, going forward, I think Loki is a very, it's important to watch if you're, worried about understanding what's going on for the rest of the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
What If was very good. I enjoyed What If a lot.
Well, I didn't see What If.
Episodes of What If. Because it was the Marvel short stories.
Yeah.
Which, back to my original, my other thing. They made Doctor Strange so cool in What If? Why don't they make him cool in his own movies? Yeah. He's so cool in everything he's not the main character in. I don't understand it. Overall, though, I thought What If was very well put together and very good.
We'll have to see that one, too.
I did not watch Ms. Marvel or Hawkeye.
Me neither.
I watched Moon Knight. I thought Moon Knight, the story was very good. The visuals were a little lackluster.
Yeah, I've seen some clips from it. But
it definitely had some bad animation, but I didn't think it was so bad that it took me out of it, but it wasn't so bad that I was like, yeah, this is ruining this show for me. And it had another very interesting villain as well. It had a very good villain.
Okay, good to know. I don't know if I'm gonna go back and watch any of them. I think just maybe Loki.
Yeah, Loki I would very much recommend. All these other ones, well, I mean, I can't speak for Ms. Marvel or Hawkeye. All these other ones are kind of like, if you want to see them, you can go see them, but Loki is very good.
Okay.
She-Hulk.
Did you watch She-Hulk?
Oh my god, I tried to. I really tried to watch She-Hulk. I don't know if I've ever sat through a more painful show.
Is it really that bad?
It is so bad. It is really bad.
That's interesting, because I feel like some people are saying it's really bad, and then some people are saying it's actually good.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know. I guess I'll just have to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, so the first at the beginning, it's like, okay, you know, this might not be great, but it's not bad. At first it was like Moon Knight level to me. It was like, you know, it's not the most amazing show, but I can watch this. And then by like episode 5, I'm like, I can't even stomach this anymore. I've got to stop watching this show. It's so bad. Because like, so there's so many things I could pick apart about this. Like the She-Hulk like CGI model. I swear they create like
yes,
like Bruce Banner's Hulk.
That.
Bruce Banner's Hulk looks like Mark Ruffalo. This She-Hulk like CGI model looks nothing like the actress. I swear they casted the actress after they made the character like itself.
Really?
Because it doesn't look anything like her at all. And like,
I just remember seeing the trailer and seeing what the CGI looked like.
There's this like, one part where she's she's a lawyer. Oh, which by the way, did you see that one tweet where the people who wrote She-Hulk are like, we didn't want to do all that many court scenes because we don't know how to write a very good court scene. Like, this is a lawyer TV show. What do you mean you don't know how to write a court scene?
Just watch Better Call Saul.
For real, right? Better Call Saul. I mean, shoot, they don't even have to go outside of Marvel. They could go watch Daredevil if they wanted to.
Oh yeah.
Which they do bring Daredevil into this. I didn't watch the show that long enough to go see him, though. I didn't like. I think I had stopped watching like 1 or 2 episodes before Daredevil was introduced.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
I think it's just disappointing how it looks, like the CGI.
Yeah, and then I mean, like even
why?
Going past how it looks, I mean, like it's just such a like predictable, what do you call it? Like story, and then it's just so like not put together. Like, so you go back and watch any of the Doctor Strange movies. They have Wong. Wong is a serious character. He, he is doing. How do I explain it? He has a very clear-cut, like, thing he's doing, and he's not just this goofball, you know? And then you get into She-Hulk, and Wong is this pushover goofball. He is, so, like, just, I don't know. They tried to make him funny, and it just didn't work, because they went the whole too funny route, you know?
Yeah.
And then it was even weirder, because, Wong meets She-Hulk, and he's talking to She-Hulk, whatever, and then at some point these demons get into our dimension, and so he calls on She-Hulk. Why would he call on She-Hulk? Why wouldn't he call on the other 100 sorcerers that he had? Why wouldn't he talk to Doctor Strange? Why would he call on She-Hulk? It just made zero sense.
I guess that is like a running thing, though, is like in each of the movies they're like, hey, we need your help.
Yeah.
And then I guess if you think about it, you're like, well, why? There's all these other people.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair,
but it's your movie.
Yeah, thinking about it that way, Marvel does suffer from that pretty bad, especially if you think about it like all these things that go on in the other Marvel movies. Where were the Avengers at, you know?
Yeah, where was everybody else?
Like in Captain America, why was an Iron Man there, you know? Like there's just so, I mean, you could, pick that apart, but I don't know. It just really threw me off in She-Hulk. I was like, why would he go to She-Hulk for that? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Okay, I shouldn't
can't say much.
Further.
Sorry, everybody. I haven't seen it, but
I shouldn't rant any further.
All I can say is
for She-Hulk. Huh? I shouldn't rant any further for She-Hulk. All I'm saying is this is what ruined Marvel for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. I did not like She-Hulk.
Well then, I guess all that's left is Love and Thunder, huh?
Yeah, so going up to Love and Thunder, I remember when I saw the stuff for this movie, I was so excited for it. I was like, okay, maybe, Same. I really liked, what's it called? I really liked Ragnarok. And it kind of looks like it's going to be a very similar concept. They're doing the same thing. I loved Ragnarok. I'm sure I'll love this movie. And then the day before I saw this movie, I saw something online where people were like, yeah, they, couldn't be serious in this movie. The whole thing was just jokes the whole time, even in parts where the jokes didn't belong. And so I was like, okay, maybe people are exaggerating. I go watch this movie, and it is exactly that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was very much less than thrilled with Thor: Love and Thunder.
For me, when I saw the trailer, of course I was excited. I really liked Ragnarok.
Right.
But after watching Multiverse of Madness, and I got a scent of where everything was going.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, Thor: Love and Thunder. Oh no.
Yeah, at this point, I was already like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna like this movie, but I was holding on to hope. I was holding on.
Yeah,
I was like, please,
I
Marvel,
tried.
it's not too late. It's not too late.
Yeah, I tried, but I really went in with low expectations. So honestly, watching it having expectations on the floor, it was okay. Like I thought Gore was pretty cool. I like Christian Bale's portrayal of him, and
So,
then,
back on the
some
whole
of it's okay.
Marvel killing off their villains thing, he's a villain. They should have made a big deal for Thor. In the comics, Gore is a very big villain for Thor. You know, he kills off all these other gods. You know, they make several issues out of Gore killing gods, you know. And then in this movie, you don't even see him do it. He does it all off screen, you know, like... And then he's out in the same movie. Like, this is like a Thanos dude. And they just got him out on the same movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly, I didn't know much about him. I thought he looked cool. But that's, I mean, everything else about the movie is just like, all right. Like, again, when you go in with rock bottom expectations, it's okay.
That's true.
Because I'm just looking at it to, like, laugh and for that, it's fine. But... yeah, again, some of the visuals in this movie are, like the floating head.
Oh my god, I was just about to mention that. That is probably one of the worst like CGI things I've ever seen.
Oh man,
like why would they do that? That looked
I don't know
so
I
bad.
Could do better.
I was just about to say that too. I could literally do better.
Ah man, yeah. So it's not a good movie.
And then I remember cringing so hard when at the end when Jane is like beating Thor and she's like, taste my hammer, or she's like, my name is Thor, and if that doesn't work, I'm Dr. Jane Foster, and if that doesn't work, then you can taste my hammer. I was like, oh my god, I was about to walk out. I was like, this is bad.
Yeah, some of the dialogue was kind of cringy. I can't lie. I was like,
oh, and then they kind of broke a little bit of the lore. And
did they?
Not like serious lore. Not like, oh my god, this broke the world. But you know, at the one part, I can't think of what the rock dude's name is. Do you remember what the rock dude's name is?
Oh, his name is like Korg or something like that.
Korg. Yeah. So he says that on his planet, the two male Korgs will go into lava and make a baby. You know, and so he says that he has two dads. But in Thor Ragnarok, he says that the only people who showed up for his, whatever you call it, his uprising was his mom and her boyfriend. But if he has two dads, how does he have a mom?
I don't know.
I remember when he said that, I was like, wait, that didn't... What?
Yeah, I guess they're too focused on, like... I mean, it's a small thing, but...
Yeah, no, it definitely didn't,
like... focused on...
that wasn't what ruined the movie for me at all, no.
Yeah, they're just too focused on the making jokes and stuff that they forget little bits of world building. I guess,
which is where I think they went wrong. Because Ragnarok is funny, but it knows when to be serious. It knows where their story's going, and it knows when to make the jokes not get in the way of that. But it feels like Marvel is losing that touch, and they're like, they're making the jokes their priority rather than the story itself.
Right. And I think, I think it was hard too because I think Ragnarok was really good too because it had Loki and I think that really helps the movie. But not saying that Thor can't be good in his own standalone movie. It's just this one felt different. It was different, and it wasn't a good kind of different.
Yeah. So. Well, and then they made Thor an idiot. Like in Ragnarok, he's funny and he's a jokester, but by the end of the movie, he is the king of Asgard. In this movie, he is a bumbling fool. He doesn't do anything right. He is just he's a dunce the whole time. Yeah,
it's just not a good movie. That for me, I think that's the last one I've seen.
Yeah, I haven't seen Black Panther or anything yet. And I think all the other movies on this list are movies that are supposed to be coming out.
Which is like, I'm like, with the movies that are going to come out, I want to see I still haven't seen Black Panther 2, although I have heard good things about it.
So I have heard good things as well.
See that eventually. I think it's going to be interesting not having Chadwick Boseman playing.
Yeah, that will
Black
be.
Panther.
Yeah, that will definitely be interesting.
Yeah, but like Guardians 3, I do want to see Guardians 3 just because I like Guardians.
Right.
And then Quantum Mania has been really hyped up. So I'm thinking I'll go see that.
Right.
And if this is just back to back flops for me, then I don't know. I might see myself signing out with the MCU for a little while.
Yeah, that's what I was. I was gonna make the point. Phase 1 and 2 were getting me into Marvel. Phase 3 was I'm into Marvel. I love Marvel. Phase 4 was okay, you've lost me, and Phase 5 is okay, you've got a chance to try and win me back. And
that's a very good way of looking at it.
And if it doesn't happen in Phase 5, then yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll probably end up seeing more Marvel movies anyways. But I won't call myself a Marvel fan anymore.
Yeah. I guess we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I can't say that I'm that excited for any of the movies coming up. Like I'm interested, but I'm not super hyped like I am for I was for others.
Yeah, it's definitely
just super hyped for the next Spider-Man.
It's definitely one of those things where I'm just like, oh, another Marvel movie, okay.
Yeah.
It used to be I would go see every Marvel movie. Now it's kind of like I'll pick and choose which ones I go see.
Yeah, for me, honestly, it's just like, unless there's one that's been on my mind for a while, like it's just at whether or not I happen to go see it. Like after, I think Multiverse of Madness was the last one where I made it a point to go see that one.
Right.
After that, I'm like, I don't know, we'll see.
Right. I think that's probably about the same for me. I don't know why I didn't go see Eternals, because when Eternals came out, I don't think I was opposed to the MCU yet. So I don't remember why I didn't. I think the only reason I didn't go see Eternals is because when they announced the Eternals, I was like, I don't really care. I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Multiverse of Madness was the last one where I was like, okay, hopefully this one's good. And then by Thor: Love and Thunder, I was like, it's probably not going to be good.
Yeah. I still need to see Black Panther and Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
But did I say Black Panther? I meant Black Widow, but both of them actually. I need to see.
I mean Black Panther as well. I still need to go see Black Panther as well. Also.
So there's a few that I've missed throughout the years, but
right. I've heard decent things about I Am Groot in Phase 5.
I've not. I don't even know.
And if this one that I'm looking at is that holiday special, which it does look like it is. Let me zoom in on this real quick. That is the holiday special. I've heard very good things about the holiday special.
Okay, that's cool. Maybe I'll check that out. Maybe not.
So I mean, maybe they're on the rise again. I mean,
I hope so.
They've released 3 things in Phase 5, and so far all 3 of them, supposedly are good. So maybe Marvel's coming back.
I maybe, but when I think about it, I'm like, anything that is good, all good things come to an end. It's a popular saying. I think about it, and I think about some of the greatest TV shows and movies, movie series that we have had, and I think about Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad ended after 5 seasons. It could have gone on for,
right,
6 up to it could have had the Walking Dead.
They could have drug it out as long as they wanted to.
Right, which is what they did with Walking Dead, and after a certain point, they lose the majority of the audience.
Which I know most people who avidly watch The Walking Dead. I don't know what the season is, but there's a season that everyone's like, oh, it should have ended after that season. Which I've never been an avid watcher of The Walking Dead, so I couldn't tell you which season that is. But I do know that, a lot of the people who are falling off of The Walking Dead are like, the show's lost its luster and it should have ended however many seasons ago.
Right, and so I feel like that's the direction that the MCU is going in. They're just not going to end it. It's never going to be over. There's always going to be a new movie.
Well, and then
a new TV show.
There's so much money to be had in the MCU.
Exactly.
Disney's not going to let them die.
Oh, dude, it's not going to end, and I'm telling you, it's gonna fizzle out, and it's gonna be ugly. And that's unfortunate. But
yeah,
for now, all I can ask for is that the characters that I really like, that they get good endings.
Yes.
That they actually get an ending.
Yeah.
And they don't just keep milking them. Like,
Yeah.
if they want to keep going with different stuff and new characters, fine, whatever. I'll just have my era that I really, really enjoyed. But yeah, it's probably not going to end. But, you know, when I think about it, a good series needs to end. Like Breaking Bad. Could it have more seasons? It didn't. 5 seasons? Boom. Done. Right. Same thing with Better Call Saul. 6 seasons, boom, done.
Right.
And
they know when to call it.
Yeah, and they're obviously just going to want to make more money, and that's not going to happen. But I guess we'll see. We'll see. I'll try to remain optimistic about the future of the MCU, but they have to prove me wrong.
Yep.
We'll see.
Yep. I'm definitely in that boat. You know, where it's like I would be very happy to see the MCU do very well. But, I mean, at some point, you know, you have a limited amount of rope. And no matter how long your rope is, you reach the end of that rope eventually. Yeah. And so I just hope, they tie off the characters. I hope that they tie off before it's too late. You know, like, I hope Spider-Man doesn't get 12 films and it's like, oh, great, another Spider-Man movie. You know, like, I hope there's a Spider-Man movie that we're like, wow, that was a really good way to end that character, or not end that character, but to like finish off his story. You know, I hope that they give those characters that are still loved the kind of love that the fans would appreciate.
Yeah, I agree, and we'll see. Well, honestly, I think I'll probably watch Loki, and we can talk about like Guardians 3 or Quantumania whenever those come out.
Yeah, no, we can definitely do like a Incoherent Thoughts about Marvel Part 2. You know?
Yeah.
Like once Phase 5 is like, maybe by the end of Phase 5 or during Phase 5, maybe we come back and we're like, oh, we were totally wrong. The MCU is coming back, you know?
Yeah, and then while doing that, we can also watch Wakanda Forever, and then put that in there as well.
We'll have more
thoughts about that.
I mean, shoot, I'll even make myself sit through some of this other stuff. I'll make myself watch Eternals. I'll make myself watch Ms. Marvel. I'll make myself watch Hawkeye. I don't know if I'll make myself watch She-Hulk. I might make myself watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
And
I don't know.
We'll be good journalists this time.
Yeah. But yeah, wow. This has been our longest episode ever.
The second one.
Yeah, there was a lot to talk about. A lot to discuss.
We had a whole lot to go over. Before we do end it though, a Marvel movie I am excited for that's kind of not a Marvel movie is the new Spider-Verse movie. I'm excited for that one.
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah.
Oh shoot! That reminded me of another thing I hated about She-Hulk. I didn't watch this part, but I'd seen this clip. She-Hulk is, at some point, she starts talking to Kevin Feige. Literally, Kevin Feige's a robot. And she says, let's add the X-Men in. Like, that's how you're gonna get the X-Men into the MCU? Are you serious?
I heard that she breaks the fourth wall.
So she does break the fourth wall, which, you know, wouldn't be a terrible thing. And I'm all for them bringing the X-Men into the MCU, because honestly, the only reason I'm excited for it is because I want to see Deadpool interact with the rest of the MCU. As long as Ryan Reynolds is, you know, in charge of what Deadpool does and not, you know, other stuff, you know. But yeah, when I heard about that and like watched that clip where she's like, "Oh, let's add the X-Men in," I'm like, why couldn't you have come up with something better than that? Like, you literally were like, I don't know how to advance the story, so I'm going to have the main character say, let's advance the story. And then that's how you advance the story. That is literally what they did.
Dude, we're gonna have you watch the entire series and just have your own like solo episode talking about
it. I'll
just be on the side, like
If you'll watch She-Hulk and watch it all the way through, I will do it as well. And I'm down for making just a She-Hulk episode. Yeah. Maybe not immediately.
I'll like it, dude.
Maybe not immediately after this one. We should definitely split up our Marvel episodes. Imagine you like it, then we'll have two different outlooks. You know, I can't stand the show, and maybe it's your favorite, huh?
It might be.
Right? I don't know. We'll see. But I would be down to make a whole episode about She-Hulk, because I think I have enough stuff that I, can rant about.
Yeah, you know what? I'll play devil's advocate. If we do She-Hulk, I will play devil's advocate. I'll watch the show and I'll tell you everything that I like about it.
You'll be good cop, I'll be bad cop. I like that.
Yeah. I think that'd be a good idea. We'll have a debate about She-Hulk.
Okay, I like this actually. I'm liking where this is going. Later episode though. Next episode we'll find something else to talk about.
Yeah, next episode we're gonna be talking about anteaters and what they do.
Yes.
We'll
throw camels in there or something.
Yeah. You have your anteater book, right? That I sent you?
Yeah, actually, I have a couple. Okay. I went and bought some on my own, so.
Yeah, because I've already been reading it.
Yeah. I have a couple of episode. Noted pages.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it. Voiceover is going in now. Next episode is the Anteater
Dragon
episode.
Ball. Are we doing another Dragon Ball voiceover?
I think so.
Will Billy and Aiden spend next episode talking about anteaters? I kind of highly doubt it. I think it'll happen on episode 6. Find out next time on Incoherent Thoughts with Billy and Aiden.